What's up, guys? This is Alex with Cannabis Critique, and I'm proud to finally be on the Cole Memo, or formerly known as the Chillinois podcast. You can find me on YouTube. I do, cannabis reviews. I started this channel back when Illinois first legalized. I got the inspiration to start the channel after my first trip to the dispensary. So yeah, I just want to basically like to inform people upon their purchases before they go to the dispensary with the prices of weed in Illinois. I think it's a useful service to have out there, and that was pretty much the goal when I started the channel.
Hell yeah. And that's why, if you could see, folks, I displayed, and I'll display it again here in a second. I'm a proud subscriber of Cannabis Critique, longtime subscriber. Like you say, in this market where products are pretty expensive and you want to make sure you get the bang for your buck, reviewers like you are making it so that it doesn't feel as much of like a leap of faith.
So we're
So
trying to do, at least me.
yeah. Yeah, hell yeah. So thank you for doing what you do. And folks, as Alex said, you're tuned into the Cole Memo. I'm your host, Cole Preston. Every episode is released in audio, video, and transcript format. If you want to find the transcript, audio, or video version of any episode, just look in the description of the episode that you're listening to now. Within that description, you can find a link that will take you to our website, which will display the transcript for this episode and the platforms where you can find this episode in audio and video formats. If you're unable to locate the episode description on whichever platform you're listening from, I get it. I get high, and then the platform that I listen from changes, and I'm like, how do I locate the description? Simply note the episode number and visit thecolememo.com. From there, you can find that corresponding episode, and then you'll be able to find the audio, video, or transcript version of it. You might also find any links that we referenced during the episode. For example, the link to Cannabis Critique on YouTube and Patreon and Instagram. Folks, if you're not listening to this episode of the Cole Memo on Patreon, then you're listening to this episode later than our patrons. To become a patron, go to thecolememo.com/Patreon. It's a great way to support our show. But of course, one of the best ways to support our show is free. Subscribe to or follow our show. Leave us a positive review from wherever you're listening to us from. Favorite this episode. Give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment or post a review. Your engagement and support is always appreciated. Today is January 16th, 2024. And once again, we're sitting with Alex from Cannabis Critique. And yeah, it's long overdue. With as long as I've been watching your videos, you know, it's long
I often
overdue.
wondered if you did. I didn't know if you knew about me or not. I
I think I
remember
first found out about you from you and Cannabev were doing this cool like crossover.
the
I
wrestling
say cool
thing.
because it was wrestling. Yeah. And I just thought it was really funny. So that's when I originally became a subscriber. Yeah.
Right on. I'm glad that hit for you. That was just like completely spur of the moment, something that I did randomly and I didn't even tell him about because I knew he would watch my videos. And then he took it to the next level at his. His was way better than mine because mine was just I just pulled out of my ass because I had that Halloween costume laying around. I'm like, I'm gonna dress as Bret Hart. And then towards like three-quarters of the way through that video, I'm like, I need to do like a wrestling call out. So I did that. I actually did one of those at my friend's wedding because somebody got me super drunk and like I was like wanting to do a speech and like his brother like chickened out on the speech. So like you should have went up there and did the speech. And I'm like, oh yeah, I should have like grabbed the mic and been like, cut the music. And then that kind of like built upon itself. And then like yeah, like three-quarters of the way through the reception, we had convinced the DJ that we were gonna do it. And he actually did it. So and we fooled a good portion of the crowd, but at least my friend realized what was happening and realized it was a joke. But like the wedding planner went running up to his wife, was like, "What is going on?" Thought it was real. Yeah, I got on the mic and I was like, "Cut the fucking music."
That's
But
funny.
yeah, that's where the inspiration for that came from. If anybody's curious.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I was curious, and that's a hilarious backstory to that. I just love the comedy in that performance, Yeah, the whole cut the fucking music, taking just the record skip, getting everybody's attention, that whole vibe. It's hilarious to me. So, well, I'm curious, just to start, as critical as I am of Illinois, some of the things that go on in Illinois cannabis, one thing I will always say is that I would not be doing this show right now if it weren't for what happened in 2020. I wouldn't feel comfortable enough to, by that I mean legalization. I wouldn't
Right.
be comfortable enough, even though I had a medical card, I didn't feel comfortable enough to like start recording and putting myself out there like that. And I'm curious, how do you get started? And did it have anything to do with legalization or?
Oh, 100% had to do with legalization. I was just like
Yeah.
you. I was completely afraid. I don't know. I don't know. A lot of people judge you whenever they realize that you smoke. A lot of people think that you're like, I don't know, they treat you like you're dumb or something. A lot of people are always surprised when I tell them that I smoke like all the time. But and I do get kind of nervous that I put my face out there on my platform and everything like that, but I don't know, it's kind of empowering in a way as well. To just be like, yeah, fuck you, I don't care what you think anymore. It's legal,
Yeah.
you know. I work in a public industry, so it is kind of nerve-wracking being out there like that. And as the channel's getting bigger, it kind of gets weirder. I'm getting to the point now where I actually get recognized in public places, which is, I don't know, strange. I'm not like trying to brag or anything, but like it's very weird. I get recognized at the dispensary sometimes. Recently, I go to the casino sometimes and play craps. I do gamble responsibly to my Patreon members. I'm not like lighting your money on fire at the casino. I gamble every once in a while. I play dice. And one day, like back in July, I was gambling up there, and like they were all just staring at me all weird, and I'm like, am I about to get kicked out of the
Right.
casino? Like, do they think I'm cheating or something? I don't know. I was winning at the moment, so that's never good when you're in the casino. They don't like that. But it got to the point where they're like, are you on TV? And I'm like, no. And then they're like, oh, I know where you, I recognize you, you're from YouTube. And then they all just started laughing, and it was like this old lady that recognized me, which was a trip in and of itself. They're like, oh my god, I would never thought that she smoked. And then like the last few times I went there, I like go up to the bar, the bartender would be like, oh, you're the cannabis guy. And then like I got my drink from the waitress, and she's like, you're that YouTuber guy. So the last time I went there, I felt like half the staff watched my channel, which is very weird. But yeah, that's starting to kind of weird me out as well. That like, I don't know, I'm gonna get a call from my boss one day or something. He's gonna want to talk to me about my channel. I don't know.
I mean, I don't mean to downplay it, but there are like if anybody wanted to start doing anything, I would say that there's, at least in Illinois, I know there's a large number of people doing cannabis content in the United States, but like just Illinois focused, like I feel like I can count on both hands. Now, that's of course anecdotal. I can't be aware of every creator. I'm just saying the space is pretty small from my standpoint. You're among the few. So
Yeah,
when you search up Illinois cannabis weed, Cannabis Critique's probably going to pop up.
that is pretty cool as well. Big shout out to Canacentric Films. He was one of like the original ones. And he was one of my main inspirations when I first started. Um, and then like of course I like love cannabis stuff. I've become friends with him. I didn't actually know about him at the beginning, just kind of stumbled upon his stuff. And trying to not leave anybody out that I enjoy their content while we're giving
Yeah,
a
I
little bit
like
of
Kush
shout
no
outs.
ketchup. He's pretty
Yeah,
good.
he's really good. I actually did a little collab with him, Logi Smokes, and Cannabev,
Oh yeah,
which
Woji, yeah.
which I've been super lazy on. It's going to be a really cool project if it ever actually gets released. So hopefully that'll come together. But
I hope it's
I do
not.
have something in the works with those guys that I've been sitting on for like 6+ months. So apologies to those guys. They did send out some stuff to me, and I never actually did anything with it. But I promise, I will deliver some cool content with that stuff. Cool little crossover with those guys.
Yeah, well, to throw me under that bus, is that the one that you asked me to participate in, and then I
Yes.
did, and then I got too high and forgot to?
I
Yeah.
just had I don't know, I had a whole shitload of stuff like happen in my personal life around the time that I was trying to do that, and then it just got put on the back burner. But now I've conquered all of those things, so I can hopefully get
Well,
back to creating cool content again. Or
yeah.
cool-ish content and not just the reviews. I know people enjoy the reviews, but I like to branch out into other stuff every once in a while as well.
Yeah, I'm writing it down so I can follow up with you. I'll have to, we can talk off air, but yeah, since you haven't produced it yet, I can get off my high horse and participate in it. By that I
I
mean,
think
if I
it'll be
could,
a really
now that I
good video
remember.
if I ever. It's in my head. It's a super awesome concept, but I have to put it together.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, so back to how you started, like just take me back to that because we said it's legalization, but again, it's kind of like that wedding speech you spoke about earlier. You kind of got to amp yourself up for it. You probably tried a few videos, right? Or did you just
I,
swing and push that first video out, or just tell me the process?
honestly, at the beginning, when it was super, super expensive, I was having like I operate on like a shoestring budget. I don't make a lot of money. So whenever legalization came, I had my budget set up for my plug. And my plug used to give me 10 grams for $100, which is not like the greatest deal in the world. But when you compare it to the dispensary price, especially at the beginning of legalization, it was a fucking great deal. Um, so at the beginning, it was like 65 an eighth, which I was
Right.
completely shocked at. I actually woke up that morning, January 1st at 5 a.m. Left the place I was at super early by myself. Went up to the dispensary, the Collinsville one. It was like the only medical one near me that was open. The only one actually at that time. And I rolled up there, and there was a million people there at 5 a.m. And I'm like, I did not expect it to be this big of a deal. Like, I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. I mean, it's a huge fucking deal. And I think the dispensary underestimated it too. They had a little bit of stuff out there, like they had some free food and stuff, but and a little bit of music, but like it was a shit show. And luckily, I come walking up, and there's this massive line just wrapping around the whole entire place. And I saw this dude that I went to college with, and I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And I just sneaked right in line with him. So that cut off like half the line, but I still ended up being there from like 5 a.m. until like 9:30 before I got out of there. And like, I got like three-quarters of the way up through the line, and they hand you the sheet of paper, which was the menu. And I'm like, oh, sweet. I was
Right.
all excited because I had been to Colorado. I was expecting it to be cool, and it wasn't that cool. They handed me a fucking sheet of paper. It had two choices for flour, two choices for edibles, and I think like two choices for like a vape or something. And I was like, well, fuck. I got up at 5 in the morning. I already been standing for 4 hours, and I have like $150 in my pocket that I was like expecting to like get a decent amount of weed with. And I'm like, I can't even like barely afford a quarter. So I'm like, well, I have to buy both eighths. So I bought both eighths. It was like Platinum OG, and I can't remember the other one. It's like strawberry something. But Platinum OG, I remember that because that's like the first one I ever bought. Um, but yeah, I bought those. And then I get into the dispensary, and it's just like they're just pushing everybody through. And it's the first day. So, I was a little bit shocked with the process, but I was really shocked with the fact that you didn't get to see anything. You didn't get to smell anything. It was just, here's what it's called. Here's the THC percentage. Do you want it? And that was it. And I was just like, well, this fucking sucks. So I mean, I kind of always had in the back of my head that I would do like a weed review type of channel, but I didn't really know how I would do it. So then I started like talking to my friends who were potheads, and I was like, what would you like, judge a weed on? And I like laid out my 5 criteria that I still judge on today, which I'm not sure is the greatest way to do it, but that's the way we've settled upon doing it. And then I kind of came up with the scoring system, which I kind of regret now because everyone is always bitching at me in the comments about, well, what I scored this weed or that weed or why I scored this that way or whatever.
Right.
I don't fucking know, dude. I always just respond with that fucking Drew Carey clip. The points don't matter. Like the point
Yeah.
system was basically for me, so I can just quickly glance at shit and be like, I like this one better than I like this one. But sometimes that doesn't even work either because like, you got to rate some stuff really high when it looks really good, and then that'll make the overall score go up higher, so it ends up higher than I probably would have ranked it. So I don't know, I've thought about like experimenting with different scoring systems, but I really haven't figured out how to do that. I think I need to weigh like the effects a little more, but then I think like some people are just completely taste chasers. Some people are like super into how it smells. Some people are really into the looks. And I don't know if there's like also like a placebo type effect with some people to where like if they get like a really good looking weed, then they
Yeah.
in turn think it's going to get them more high. So it does. You know, I think there's something to be said for the mind too, with like taking over. I think a lot of people with the sativa indica thing like sometimes get too wrapped up into that, and they're like, I bought a sativa, it's going to give me anxiety, so then it does. So you know, it's just stuff like that. But basically, yeah, the main inspiration to get back to why I started the channel was to just try to inform people, because that first trip to the dispensary, I felt like, you know, I'm like a super big pothead. I've been to a million dispensaries. I should know how this is going, and I felt clueless as like a veteran consumer. I couldn't imagine like what it's like for like an older person to go there who hadn't smoked in 20 years and was like, what? I don't have no idea what this even is. They don't know what like a lot of the older people still struggle with like the difference between like what flour versus like popcorn versus shake versus, you know, etc. So there, I don't know, as a pothead who's smoked for a long time, it's all obvious to us, but to some people, it's really not. So, you know, I've thought about doing some really like what's the word I'm looking for? Like I don't know, simple videos, like basically like literally how to break down your weed and smoke it. Because I remember when I
Dude,
first bought weed, I didn't know, like I didn't understand the whole breaking it up. Like, why are we breaking it up? What are we taking out of it? Like
right.
that was back when there were seeds and shit. But you know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of nuance in weed that you might not even realize you have knowledge.
Seriously though, I mean it's very interesting. Something is, you know, we say as simple as rolling a joint. Look, I can't even still roll a joint with my actual fingers. I have to use one of these like
Machines.
machines
Yeah.
because I'm such a child. But I say that jokingly, but like my brother, for example, he just started smoking and I'm like having to teach him how to use all these different tools. Like, oh, you gotta grab a, you know, a crutch for, you gotta grab a pre-rolled tip for that, you know, and then you gotta grab your papers and like all these different things that, like you say, is just under the belt for us that he's just like has no concept of. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So no, I think that's a great idea, making just like simple ideas, like just how to use the pot that you might have bought, like whatever product you may have bought,
Yeah,
right?
I've thought about like jumping into the short stuff because YouTube loves that so much, and just doing like shorts on that type of stuff. And then I wouldn't feel so bad about I just feel shorts are stupid, but I don't
Yeah. I
know.
I agree. I agree. It's like the whole idea of, I mean, as you know, like when we were talking about doing the show, like this show is long format conversation, so it's really hard to condense that into like a reel, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Occasionally I try to, but it's still just somebody takes something out of context or whatever else, and you know, it's hard to capture the nuance of a hour long conversation or whatever it may
right.
be in a clip. And I can imagine the same can be said about anything, you know, reviewing a product or even just like doing simple things like we were just talking about. So, um, I want to get back to something you brought up, but just to stay on like the chronological timeline we were on. So you got started. Um, well, you had your first weed experience. Did you really talk about like
Oh, I
your
haven't even
first?
talked about
Yeah, I was
that.
gonna say you haven't even really gotten to the, yeah.
No, I didn't know you asked me that, but yeah, we'll get into the first weed experience.
Oh,
First off,
sorry. We definitely have to talk about that. What I meant to say was your first weed experience in Illinois. You described
oh, okay.
going to the store and kind of like not being, and then you described your motivations for starting the show. You're like, hey, if I'm a veteran and I have trouble traversing these waters, but I was going to ask you, yeah, what was like posting your first video like? Like, what do you remember your first video? You know, stuff like that, and from
Uh,
there, how it went.
Honestly, I was surprised how quickly like the videos kind of took off. I I can remember like being excited about getting 69 subscribers, which I think was like a month in. And then after that, it just kind of snowballed pretty quickly. I was very surprised at like the amount of views that it got. Like I didn't expect to like get that organically. I thought it was just going to be like a dead channel, to be honest with you. um I really didn't expect to get like any sort of, I don't know, momentum behind it, and then it just kind of started building upon itself, I guess.
Yeah,
But
nice.
yeah, it's been, I don't know, it's been a while now since I started, so it's hard to say what my feelings were on that first video. But um it was super exciting like when I got to 1,000 subscribers, and I was like completely mind blown when I got to like the 10,000 watch hours or whatever, because I never really thought I was going to get there. And then they monetized my channel, which I was like completely surprised upon. But I never made a dime, in case anybody's curious there, because they automatically just age restrict all my videos anyway. Like anything I post is just age restricted instantly. I even like posted some cooking videos, age restricted instantly. I try to not smoke in my videos so they seem like more educational. I get a lot of
Yeah.
questions about that. I think there's like conspiracy theory out there that I don't even smoke because nobody ever sees me do it on video. But
We'll prove that today.
yeah, I'll try. That's why I got the bong out for this today, because I have so many people like, why don't you smoke in your videos? But like, I want it to be more seen as an educational type video
Yeah.
and not like there's a million of those fucking channels where it's just some dude sitting in his car taking huge ass rips, which I
Right.
mean, it's if you want to watch that content, that's fine. It's just not the type of content that I'm gonna watch, at least not for very long.
Hmm. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, that's cool to hear like how you got started and how it was driven from your first experience. Yeah, let's turn back the clock a little bit more as we spark up. Well, tell me about your first time getting high. That's always a really fun story. And I saw you get really excited when I said that. So I have a feeling that there's probably a good story behind it.
Yeah, pretty decent story behind this one. Um, So surprising to a lot of people, I guess not surprising maybe if you watched a lot of my videos. I was a huge nerd growing up. Probably still get that vibe from me. But I never imagined really smoking weed as a teenager or anything like that. I, like most people, thought that potheads were dumb. A lot of the potheads that I interacted with were, stupid, and I was a nerd that was going to the library playing RuneScape, and I worked at Subway, and that was pretty much it. Then I got into college, and like my older brother had always smoked weed, and I had always kind of had like a general curiosity about it, but I'm way younger. My oldest brother's 8.5 years older than me, and then my other brother's 6.5. He's the one that was the huge pothead. But I remember just it was like I think as sophomore year of college, yeah, I believe so, second year of college, like the beginning semester. um my neighbor, who was still in high school at the time, like 4 years younger than me, he is. So I don't know what year he was in high school then, like a junior or whatever that works out to be. I don't know, sophomore or junior in high school. He was like, "Hey, I got I got some weed if you want to." Well, actually, we'll rewind back a little bit. About a week before this, I don't know. I was like I said, I was just like curious about weed, and like I was going through my brother's stuff, like just bored one day, and I found like this tin that was filled with, I guess looking back on it, it was probably just stems that were left over from something. But like I thought it was, weed. I opened it up, it was just a bunch of like plant material, for lack of a better word. I can't really remember what it was, but it's basically probably just stems. And like I think I found like his one hitter or something. And like I think I packed up like some stems or something into it and tried to smoke it. And then I was like, I didn't feel anything, obviously. So I was like, well, what's this all about? I don't know. And I kind of stored that in the back of my mind and thinking about it. And then, like I said, my friend, my neighbor that was my friend, he called me up and was like, "Hey, do you want to get high?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, let's do it." So he brought over some actual weed and like a one hitter, I think in like a dugout. And we took a one hitter in my bathroom and hit it. And I had worked at Subway at the time, and like we hit it, and I was like, whoa. I've like instantly loved it, absolutely loved it. A lot of people say like they don't get high for the first time. I absolutely loved it. I was just loving it, man. Like that's the only way I can describe it. I don't know, like I don't remember being like super laughy. I just remember being like, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
This shit's off. I feel fucking awesome. And then my friend left, and like I worked at Subway at the time. I had some Subway cookies, so I started eating those chocolate chip cookies, and I was like, dude, these cookies taste so good right now. And I was like, this is so awesome. It's so incredible. It was like an earth shattering experience for me. And I remember messaging the girl I was talking to at the time and being like, we got to do this together, because she had never smoked either. And I was like all super excited about to share this with her and like other people. And then, you know, to get back to like the stigma and stuff like that, like the next week I go over to my friend's to go over get invited to a party at my friend's house. It might have been a couple of weeks later. I don't know if I had been smoking a while at this point or not, but I remember being like, hey, you guys want to smoke some weed? And they're like, you smoke weed? What? And like that was the first time I was like, oh fuck. Like people aren't cool with this. Like I thought it was cool, you know? And
Yeah.
like I don't know. That was the first time I got like stigmatized towards it. So, but I don't know. That's just a little bit of how it was for me. And then I kind of, I don't know, became more of a recluse with my use, and
Yeah.
didn't. I wasn't as open with it from then on. And like none of, I don't know, it just kind of happened this way, but I never really made friends with a lot of potheads. So I was just always the dude who was leaving the party to go smoke pot. And like I always felt a little bit of an outcast like that, because I don't know. I just none of my friends have ever smoked, which is very weird when I tell people that I'm like the smoker guy, and like I don't really, I don't know, hang out with a bunch of smokers.
Yeah.
But recently I've been hanging out with some people who smoke, and it's kind of cool when you're like not the only person that smokes. So
Right.
we'll
Right.
see what the future holds for me. But
Did during that time in your youth, like when you, as you say, kind of became like a recluse with your use, did you ever try to, or was it too taboo? Like, did you try to talk to people about why they felt the way they did? I'm just curious because I grew up in those times, but I was on the tail end, you know, like so.
not really. I'm like a person who's like, you can do your thing and I'm gonna
Sure.
do my thing. As long as you don't judge me on my thing, then you can
Yeah.
do whatever you want to do. So that's kind of how I've always been. And I never want to be the dude that forces shit upon other people. So I've never
Yeah.
been like, dude, smoke this. I just
Right.
fucking sit there ripping my bong. And if like I just be like, I feel like if you're gonna decide you want to smoke, then you'll just be like, hey, can I hit that or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm never like, I'll ask you one time if you want to smoke weed with me, and if you say no, then I know that you're not a pothead, because I would literally never say no to weed.
Right.
And then after that, I pretty much never offer to anybody that I'm around. And if you see me smoking, and you want to smoke with me, I probably will smoke with you, but you got to ask me. I'm not going to ask you.
That's funny. That's funny. I always like to ask this, and I think I even asked last time I had Cannabev on. We talked about this. Have you ever had like any close calls, either with law enforcement or your parents or like school or like, I don't know, just getting caught smoking weed, you know?
One of my favorite stories. I had just recently had a falling out with that girl that I was talking about in my first thing, like first crush. I was destroyed. Got fucked over by her, but who cares about all that? But anyways, I was like super depressed. I remember it was my birthday, like I don't know, like 8 years ago or something. Not longer than that. Fucking like 15 years ago. I don't know. Whatever. But it was a long time ago. I still lived at home. And I remember I was it must not have been my birthday because it was summertime. So for some reason I wanted to say it on my birthday. Whatever. Details getting fuzzier. But it was actually a summer day. And I remember I lived in a basement, but I had one of those windows, like it was right above my bed, like on the side of my bed. I could like stand up and open this window, and you could get a full body out of this window. You could
Right.
easily. I used to sell weed out of this window. My mom jokes about that. She's like, "Oh, it's just weed window," because apparently she used to know that I did that and never said anything about it, because that's just how
That's
my mom
funny.
is. But anyways, uh, so I had taken a bong. I took a big ass bong rip, and I'm like exhaling it out my window. And my mom walks in the room as I'm doing that. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." And I just kind of just didn't answer. And then I was prepping myself to go mow the lawn, actually. And I go to walk out to the garage. She just went back upstairs. And I go to walk out the garage. She's like, "What do you need, weed to do chores now?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yes, I do."
I mean, yeah.
And then with the cops, I actually got pulled over the day they legalized weed. Like not like the when it became law, but when they passed the bill. Whatever that day was, it was sometime in
They got your ass.
yeah, it was sometime in like July or August, but I was on my way home from the casino. I just lost some money on the craps table. I was in a shit mood, and I'm driving home. And I was going the speed limit, driving fine. I had just smoked a little bit of weed, allegedly, because that's illegal. So allegedly, I had smoked a little bit of weed out of my chillum. I don't have my chillum. I wish I did. That's a kind of a talking point. I've had the same chillum since I was 22. But anyway, I was smoking out of my chillum allegedly, and I finished up a bowl, and then I was driving. I was about 7 miles away from home on the highway, just straight ass shot. All of a sudden, cherries and berries behind me. I'm like, fucking A, what the fuck did I do? I didn't do anything. I'm not speedy. Like, why the fuck are these guys pulling me over? So I pull over and literally instantly, as soon as this guy gets up to my car, he's like, whoa, I smell weed. He's like, do you guys have any weed in the car, or have you maybe smoked some weed tonight? And I was just like, I just took that up to you. I was like, yeah, I smoked weed way earlier. I was like, I guess at that time they didn't really care about the DUI part of it, allegedly, or whatever. I don't know, but he didn't seem worried about it that I had already smoked it. He just wanted to know if I had any. So um, he's like, well, since your car smells, it gives me right to search. You mind if I search? And I was like, well, I already smoked all my weed. So I was like, go for it, dude. So yeah, they ripped apart my entire car. And I do go to the gym occasionally. So I had like a Tupperware full of chalk in there. And like this dude was smiling ear to ear. He comes running up to me with that fucking Tupperware full of chalk. And he's like, "What's this?" I'm like, chalk. Like, yeah, I got my Tupperware full of cocaine just
Right. You
chilling in my
got me.
car, bro. But they ended up ripping apart my whole car, never found anything. And I'll tell you this, I didn't tell you where I hid my chillum, but pro tip, best spot to hide your pipe if you need to, allegedly, is you can take the parking brake has like a little slit in it. You just shove your shit in there. It'll fall down. Like in my car, it fell down all the way between like my gear shifter thing, and I had to take apart my plastic thing. But they will never find it in there. Never find it. You won't
Yeah.
find it either until you take apart your car
I
to
was
get
gonna
it
say
back
most
out.
people would never find it again either.
But that is a great spot in an emergency. If you need to stash something, just shove it in your parking brake there, and it doesn't really look suspicious. You can just be like, whoosh, and it's gone.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Damn, dude. The freaking day they signed it into law. So you probably did you have that in the back of your mind too? You're
Yeah, I
like,
was
yeah,
talking to
yeah.
the because there was two officers, so I was talking to the one guy. I'm like, I can't believe this is happening on the day they legalized this.
Yeah.
He's like,
That's
yeah, but
funny.
it's not in fact or whatever.
Yeah. That's crazy. Well, I was trying to do some of my research today, and I did. I went to an Illinois dispensary and I bought some weed, and I was surprised to see that prices are getting down. I saw like ounces for $150 for several brands that were different companies. Sometimes that'll throw people off, because the brands they're the same company, but these were
Oh yeah,
brands from different companies, so it's not just one brand, that's dipping low. Um, it's interesting because, one of the main complaints I always had about Illinois, besides the lack of choice, and that still is a real thing. I mean, there's just not a lot of companies that are active here in Illinois.
okay, you mean
Uh,
company? Okay,
yeah, yeah. There's just not a lot.
yeah,
But it seems that the price issue it's being addressed. Seems like the prices are coming down.
for sure. I was super surprised to see it. I really was enjoying that. The ounces around here have disappeared, unfortunately. During the summer, I was getting those Simply Herb ounces. Like Collinsville had a deal was like spend 240, get 60 off. So
Mm.
I'd do that and I'd like stack it with like the $130 ounce. So I was getting like an ounce. I think I got an ounce and a quarter for like 145 one time or something. So that's pretty great dispensary prices in my opinion. I'm one of those people that's like I don't know. I get annoyed with these people that act like the dispensary weed is super bad. Like I never think that it's that bad, and I don't know where these people were getting their weed from before. Like I guess if you have like some like old hippie guy that really grows some fucking gas, then it's fucking awesome. But like in my experience in the streets, it's hit and miss. Sometimes you're
Definitely.
going to get some good shit and sometimes you're not. And like, the dispensary is similar, but I've never gotten anything except for maybe, less than 5 times maybe that's like just totally unacceptable, just trash. Like like you can get from like just your dude. Um I know a lot of people will be like, "What the fuck is this guy talking about?" But that's honestly how I feel. I feel like the dispensary quality is pretty good for the price, especially the price we're currently paying. When we were paying 65 for every eighth, that was pissing me off.
Yeah.
But now that you're paying like I just bought two Rise Ace for $25. I don't even know if they were on sale. I don't even think they were. It was just the price that they were. I think they were, on sale, but I mean, it was just like an ongoing sale. So, I mean, $25 an eighth is stupid good. Like I said, I was paying 10. I don't know what people pay on the black market now because since the channel, I haven't ever done that, bought any black market bud in like 4 years. So I don't know really what the prices are at or what you can get stuff for. But like when I was
Hmm.
paying 10 grams for 100, I don't feel like I feel like the dispensary is pretty competitive, and at the same time, you are supporting the legal side. I know a lot of people like to, be like, yeah, you're supporting the MSOs and all that other bullshit that comes with it. But if you want legal weed, I think you should try to support it at least a little bit. You don't have to buy all your bud from the dispensary, but I think you should probably go to the dispensary sometimes. They do, employ a lot of people. They could employ more people, I think, and they could pay the people a lot better. But that's true of like every industry, and especially as time marches on, it just seems like shit sucks more and more, and you have less and less benefits for employees and stuff like that. But I think overall, like I said, I try to support the legal market, and honestly, I feel pretty good about supporting the legal market.
Yeah. So the weed thing that like I just noticed, yeah, typically weed from any dispensary, even from Michigan sometimes, like because people will say that Michigan is so much better, and I'm one of those people because I truly believe that the ability to have more choices is better for the consumer, and it's better, more choices for lower prices. It's like win-win. Um, but I will say that just Illinois, like just from a dispensary in general, even from Colorado and California, just like my general experience is that weed is just drier, and it has to do with the testing standards, like especially in a market like Illinois where it is a consumer packaged good. Like it would be like putting lettuce in a jar, just like we're doing with weed, and it would get moldy. Like there's a really high chance of it becoming moldy. So we've got these really strict testing standards, and companies have come on this show, or actually no, I guess it would be the Chillinois podcast, like New Era and other companies have come on and talked about the fact that they're like, sorry, we can't. They literally, I think New Era literally said like, we can't grow the weed we want it or sell the weed we want it because of the testing standards.
Ooh,
Like in other words,
that's
like if you've ever had like some really good homegrown, that's where I get where people are coming from, where they're like, because you're absolutely right. The my experience with like before legalization with like having a guy was not only having to deal with having a guy, which is like, when am I going to get my weed? Like,
yeah,
is it going to be in an hour or is it going to be like next week?
that
Like,
shit would
who
piss me
knows? That
off.
shit pissed me off. But then also like, yeah, like I actually generally had decent luck where like, and I've talked to many people that did not have the same experience, so consider it anecdotal, but like my guy would have options, so I could at least look at things and be like, yeah, I want that, and I want that, and I do not want that. Like kind of get a mixture type deal. But again, anecdotal. So I know that everybody didn't have that experience. But my point being that if you've had access to some quality, it doesn't even have to be homegrown, but it just typically seems to be like some guy that really just cares about his crop. If you've ever had access to that and then you try some dispensary bud and it just happens to be, because I've had some fresh batches from the dispensary, Illinois dispensaries. It just seems like it's so hard. And I kind of feel like an asshole when I'm purchasing it because I'm the guy that I pick out a few options and I'm like, all right, give me the harvest dates on each of those. And I try to find the freshest one. But even that, like that's not always surefire. Like a few months ago, I tried that and I got one and the label or sorry, the seal just so happened to be punctured. So the fucking batch, while it was fresher, it was dry as fuck because I'm attributing it to the seal being open because I would hope that,
Yeah,
they would have
probably.
stored it properly, right? So anyways, that's like I get where people are coming from with the idea that like legal weed like just seems dismal. I mean, even companies themselves have come on the show and said like, look, we'd love to sell it fresher, but the regulations in Illinois at least don't let us. Like deli style would be optimal because then it would be more like produce. Because like I don't know about you, but when I go and buy any produce, like you can get canned green beans, sure. I mean, we all get canned green beans sometimes, but if you're gonna get like green beans or grapes, like you have that opportunity to like inspect it. I feel it. I pop a grape in my mouth, try it.
Got
I
to.
relate that to flour. Like I smell it, I look at it. Some of the metrics that you grade your kind of like the looks of it. And the fact that Illinois cut that out, as you mentioned earlier, the fact that they cut that out of the shopping experience just makes for
Yeah, I don't want to sit here and say that like the Illinois dispensary is perfect or be like a spokesman for the Illinois
yeah,
dispensary.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't want
I
to
was
come
just
off
trying to
that way. I
say
was just
like
trying to give like the positive side of the dispensary, along with I did say the negatives as well. I just think just price wise, I think they're getting more competitive.
right. Yeah.
Um, obviously, if you like I said, if you got some dude who's giving you just because when these people who grow and then they end up with just a fuckload and they don't have anything to do with it. There's like you can have a pound for fucking
Yeah.
500 bucks. Here you go, or whatever, Then
Yeah.
yeah, you're fucking gonna be awesome. You're gonna have it fucking great. You just got to realize that like most people don't have that type of option.
Very well said. I guess what I was just trying to say, and it's like I even just talked to Charlie Bachtel about this, the CEO of Cresco Labs, like a feature these companies view as a feature of Illinois is the fact that it is CPG. They call it Cannabis Generation 2.0. And I'm just trying to say that that model in and of itself, I think you could attribute to a lot of like the anger that people have about the shopping experience. Because
Yeah,
when you spend however much you spend, like you say, the prices are getting much better. But even then, when you spend whatever you spend, and then most people don't have a medical card, so there's like a tax on it. You can see why people get like upset, because it
get your
feels
medical
like,
card, people.
and that's why absolutely. Well, and that's why again, content creators like yourself are so important because it makes you are facilitating the shitty shopping experience that we are offered.
Yeah, I guess people are like, that's his play. He wants them to keep it sealed so scale
No,
his
no, no.
content.
That is funny. That would be like some conspiracy level shit. But no, that's why I like people that are reviewing weed in Illinois right now because whenever I have to go and buy it, like it's nice to be able to take what I feel is like less of a dive. And you guys because you can't inspect it, the best way to do it is to go to somebody that you trust, to review it.
Yeah, and I like being that. And to get back to the conspiracies, a lot of people like are always like, "You're working with such and such." I work with nobody. I get paid by nobody except for my Patreon people. That's it. That's the only people that I'm a slave to. My Patreon people. That's it. There's no company that's even asked to work with me. I've asked to back in the early days. I used to reach out to the companies and be like, "Hey, can I get a picture of your bud since I can't take a proper picture with
Right.
my shitty phone? They'd be like, no, you can't do anything. And I'm like, what the fuck? The only brand that was ever cool at all was Revolution. They were like, fuck off, but here's a care package. And they sent me like a t-shirt and shit. So cool on them for that. But like every company is like, no, we don't want to let you use anything. And I'm like, I just want to use a photo of your butt, literally the stock photo that you have on your website. No, can't use it. Got to take your own. It's like, all right, I'll take it with my fucking shitty phone and it won't look as good. And then your bud won't look as good. And whatever, that'll be your problem. And to get back to the pricing shit, uh, fuck that organics company for putting out $80 eighths. Had to get that in.
Oh, Oregonics, I think is the company.
Yeah, whatever. I was excited to see a new company like Cannabev like hyped them up to me. It was like, oh, they might want to work with you or whatever. I don't even care. They're gonna hear this and be like, fuck that guy. But fuck them. $80 an eighth, it should be criminal. I saw that somebody posted that. I don't know where that was, but it was $75 menu price. And then plus taxes. That's almost $100 for a fucking eighth bag of weed after
Yeah.
if you're recreational. I mean, that is absolutely retarded. Or like, and I'm sorry for the R word there,
No,
but
that's
it's warranted. It's warranted. It's ridiculous. You should never be charging over 65 an eighth ever, period dot. And I don't even think you should be charging 65 an eighth if we want to rant about prices. But
well, and that's another part of what I hate about this system is that Governor Pritzker himself has, I mean, he just did it at Benzinga, but I was going to look up his Ivy Hall speech because I've always got this at the right timestamp because I use this clip all the time. Um, he uh, he basically describes how we have limited the number of participants in the cannabis market so that prices stay high, so that people don't get priced out. And it's like, what you're talking about is a feature of Illinois cannabis, not a flaw, you know?
so ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's what I'll say about your comment about supporting the legal market. That's the reason it has a sour taste in my mouth. I just told you though, I went to the dispensary the other day and I'm honest with you in that I go to it all the time. I just tell people it's like Coca-Cola. I love Coca-Cola. You can ask anybody that I know, they will testify to that fact that I'm a Coke head in that context. Um, so but I feel awful about supporting that company only knowing that Coca-Cola is like one of the number one polluters, polluting brands or whatever. And it's obviously apples to oranges, but one of the things that I've challenged many cannabis companies on is like supporting more decriminalization. There are still many different ways in which you can get in trouble in Illinois for cannabis, and it just seems like you can't get any energy from it. And that's like if I've been telling people like if somebody would just rise to that, I would be like a loyal supporter. You know what I mean? Actually, even just since we are throwing around names, was it Ivy Hall or was it Green Rose? I don't know. One of them, they purchased a bloodhound for a police department, which is cool. Bloodhounds are not used for finding drugs. They're used for finding people.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. I wonder what the significance of that was because I saw a bunch of people posting about that and I was like, I don't get it.
yeah, so
I,
I
I get
I
it.
posted about it, and this is their
Yeah.
post. It's kind of small, but I just wanted to show it, like for the record. Um, and Ivy Hall liked one of the comments that I made on their Instagram, so I asked them if they'd be willing to come on, and I told them exactly what I'm telling you right now, which is just like if one of these companies, like I'm not criticizing them, and I never really have criticized them for. I just pointed it out that they did that. um, I just feel like one of the best ways to support law enforcement and our communities is by supporting more more efforts to decriminalize cannabis, right? Give them the capacity to focus on things that actually matter. And it just seems like every time I issue that challenge to any cannabis company in the state of Illinois, it's either met with crickets or it's met with, in the specific context of home grow, it's always met with, how does that affect my market? And it's like, it's always just saddening, you know what I mean? So that's where, that's the only thing, everything else I agreed with you with, though. I just feel like that's where at least I am very outspoken about like I feel bad sometimes when I participate in the legal market, and it's only for those reasons. Other than that, I fucking love that right now I could place an order. Like it's unreal how for granted we take this. You and I both could place an order on our phone, and within an hour we would have whatever we want. And like generally speaking,
Yeah.
flour, a beverage, a dab pen, things you couldn't dream of just a few
Yeah.
years ago. That's
That is
pretty fucking
very true.
awesome.
Like the drinks and all that type of stuff is very, very cool. And you would like, yeah, stuff you can't even imagine they're coming out with. The topical stuff is really cool that stuff's available.
And
I
it
wish that,
works. I don't know
yeah,
if you've
I
ever
wish.
tried it, but it works.
Speaking of prices, I wish that type of stuff was more affordable because that stuff is kind of ridiculously priced. I feel like they just like spin a wheel and they're like,
You
woo.
just made me add a light bulb. I never really thought about that. So I've always made the point, bear with me here, I'll try to be short about this. In Illinois, we
I
have
got
like
all day.
I just feel like I've been long-winded about these different points, but like the in Illinois, typically speaking, we have like sin taxes. So like soda, for example, bringing back Coca-Cola up, it's like taxed a little bit more.
Do we have a
And
soda tax?
I believe so. I remember hearing about it as a child, and I'm gonna Google it just for the sake of it. But
I know they
soda
got that in like
tax,
New York. I've always bitched about stuff like that. I don't think we got that here. We definitely got SIG tax and
yeah.
is there a tax on alcohol? I don't know. Oh, it's
It looks
built
like
in.
Chicago, there is a three
Oh,
percent,
Chicago. Okay.
but I don't know. I don't know exactly now.
Down
Oh,
here
it
in the
looks like
sticks, I get my soda tax free, baby.
it may have actually ended. It says Cook on February 24th, Cook County's short-lived soda tax.
There you go.
So maybe it is no longer a thing.
I know
But
that's a thing in New York.
right. But just using the idea of syntaxes, you said we do it with cigarettes. So typically the way that yeah, the taxes work, it's like you put it on something that's seen as more harmful to dissuade use. And in that spirit, it's interesting how we have taxed cannabis products because like flour or products that are less than 30% are taxed at a lower rate when concentrate anything over 30% or infused products like you were just saying, which includes those topicals, are taxed at a higher rate. You'd think that because they are healthier products because you might be applying it, you'd
Yeah.
think that they would like fall into a lower tax bracket, judging on how we tax other things. Maybe I'm just high as
Oh,
fuck right
that's
now.
I've never really thought of it that way, but that's a decent point that you're bringing up. I
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense the whole
Yeah.
taxing by THC percentage. I feel like they just screw the people who really like vapes, but thankfully I'm not one of those people. I always get those comments on my page as well to address
Yeah.
that the vapes, judging vapes. I feel like every vape is like the same experience. It's just
Yes.
that's just how I feel. So I don't
Yeah.
know how to judge them. They taste different depending upon like if they
Sure.
added like a flavoring agent. A lot of times what they do, I think that's how it works, but I don't know. I've never like I was super excited about vapes. I'm like, oh, I can hit a vape and be like super stoned and it's super discreet. But every time I get one, I don't really feel that much from them. I will say I had the Wiz Khalifa pen on my bachelor party in Vegas back in 2018, and that thing got me high. So I don't know. Some of them they always say like it has the full terps or whatever.
Right. Right. Full spectrum or whatever.
So I don't know. I guess you could judge there, but I think if you pay more, you get a general better experience with a vape. My general experience. But the high is always kind of I don't know. It's just not as good. There's no like warmth to the high. I feel like that's why I almost always smoke flower. I usually don't even mess with concentrate. Every once in a while, I'll buy a concentrate. I haven't in a long time. No, now, but
Yeah.
I'm just basically strictly just flour. I don't really mess with edibles either because they just don't really do much for me. Like the only time I really get smashed from edibles is from RSO. Is when I
Oh
just
fuck
eat
yeah,
like
dude.
I'll just do a 500 milligram syringe and eat the whole thing at once.
Hmm.
That'll get me pretty high for like all day. But
Yeah.
like I can still smoke like afterwards. People will be like, oh, you ate 370 milligrams of THC, and then I feel like an addict or something. So I just don't fuck with it. But I remember I made that one video where I put 500 milligrams on that donut. It's like how to make a really strong edible, and that's all the comments on that video were like people will be like, "You're insane, dude." Like I don't know. For me,
Or a
like that's
genius.
yeah, that's just like a standard dose. Like I feel like I could eat two of those, and then
Hell
I
yeah,
would be
dude.
like really fucked up. But just one of them, I was just like, I don't know. I felt like I didn't need to get high until like 4 p.m. that day, and I was, and then I was sitting there smoking my bong. I'm like, God damn, dude.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Yeah, one of the points I wanted to bring back up that you brought up that I thought was hilarious. Before I get to that, actually, you brought up another potential conspiracy theory. Just I want to keep that thread going. If I'm sure somebody could pull the strings and make a conspiracy theory that,
You get my T-shirt in here. Adjust my background. Oh, there
oh,
we
there
go.
you go,
Change
there
the
you go.
vibe.
Somebody could pull the strings and make the conspiracy theory that that the reason products are taxed, above 30% or whatever it is, yeah, it's like the state working with the companies, like, you know what I mean, to
Yeah.
try to get more tax money. I'm just
I'm
trying to be
surprised
silly.
none of these companies have any reviewers. Like I thought, like I would be approached pretty quickly on that, and that's never happened for me. I don't know. I saw Kushno Ketchup did some event with a dispensary, and that's fucking awesome. If any
Dude,
dispensary ever
yeah,
wanted to work with me, I would be down to hang out and give
fuck
out
yeah,
free shit from myself to people. But
yeah,
I don't know. I really anticipated these, at least like the companies having some sort of presence on social media. They don't seem to have. Um, I anticipated maybe the dispensaries having something like that they don't seem to have. But I don't know if they just bank on people just finding that themselves. But like you just do the work for us anyway, so why would we want to work with you?
yeah, yeah.
I
um
did score some free weed one time, and that was the goal when I started. One of the goals when I started this channel was to get free product. So shout out to Legacy. They did work with me and sent me some free product one time, and that was awesome. And it was actually good stuff. And to clear that up, I didn't like give them a better review because of that. I do think of them as a cooler company because of that, but I don't really find myself buying their weed very often because it's always like 65 an eighth, and it's never on sale down here. I'm not sure why, but the 1/8 that I did have from them was good. And shout out to them for reaching out to me. Like I think it's been like a year ago now, but and
yeah,
working with me. That was pretty cool.
if people were, and I know that again, this is January 16th, 2024, and times can change. But generally speaking, like I can name off a few names, and if you want me to lead, I can, but I wanted to throw it your way. Generally speaking, if people were gonna look at purchasing cannabis in Illinois, what are some trusty brands you feel you can go with? And again, I could lead
Um,
if you want, like, just my anecdotal opinions.
no, no, I'll go.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I, if you've looked at the forums and research stuff like that, Revolution is always at the top of the list.
That's what I was gonna lead with.
Yeah, they're solid. They're hard to find though because their reputation's so good. I think like even like normies know about Revolution. I feel like because I can never hardly ever find their stuff down here. Um, I've had. I don't really want to. I'm not going to give cookies the shout out yet. The cookies flour that I've had now that it's I guess it's
Which
Revolution
I was
anyway.
gonna say,
So I
that's
guess it's the same
Revolution. Yeah.
shit, but,
Yeah.
but it's been pretty good. Yeah, I guess I was thinking back when Ozone grew and it wasn't as good, but I've only had a couple of their stuff. I just finished up the Pac-Man. I've been lazy and not reviewed it yet, but this stuff hit like a truck. It was really good and super like florally, like super, had a lot of terps going on. Um, other brand, Cresco was super, super good for a while. I haven't this year. I've been almost buying exclusively the Arise Days Off uh popcorns because you can get them here $40 for the 7 gram container,
Oh wow.
which I mean that's just hard to beat. So I was buying those ounces during the summer from Simply Herb, and those were good for the value. And then I switched over to those days off quarters, and they're I wouldn't say that they're like the greatest, but they're not bad. They're good. They're a good daily driver. It's that Arise experience is a little different with the aeroponic weed. It's just, I don't know. It's always looks really good and never really has much of a smell to it with Arise normally. Occasionally you'll get some real good stuff in their eighths, but the days off, that's been my daily driver lately. So what is it? And then crops. Lost my train of thought. Obviously, crops. I've been hyping the shit out of crops lately on my channel. Like people are gonna start thinking I'm working with them, but their shit has been fire lately. If you're looking for good stuff. And then people have been hyping up this botanist lately as well. And I picked up this Big Chills #4, and it delivers on that name, Big Chills. This stuff has been making me nap pretty hard.
Big
So
chills.
that's the quick preview of the Big Chills review. But I think right now, like I said, crops is really awesome for the price. Usually they're less than $40 an eighth down here. It's like usually 30 or 35. This is all med side pricing. So if you're rec, I don't know what to tell you. I don't look at that menu. Get your medical card. That's what I'll tell you. And then I won't get it. I guess I won't get into that. And then I'm just looking at my desk, going through these brands. I did have some. This is some Missouri weed, Vivid.
Nice.
Not that good.
Do you okay, cool. You're able to shop in Missouri. I've not been able to yet.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I live right near St. Louis, so I can go
Sweet.
right across the river and get some. I haven't even been over there to experience it over there yet, unfortunately. But I
Uh-huh.
did. My brother got me an eighth for Christmas, and then
Oh,
he got
cool.
me an eighth one other time, and just hanging out with him, he'll have some flour from over there here and there. It used to be real cheap over there when they first legalized. They had like $20 eighths like all the
Right.
time, but now he said that they're like harder and harder to find. He has to go to like a specific shop to find a $25 eighth now over in
Oh,
Missouri. So not sure what the deal is with the pricing over there. Trying to look through the rest of the brands here to see if I can think of anything. Not really. It's like I said, this year I've been like just shopping mostly for value. I'll buy I those days off. I'll buy two of those days off, quads, and then like two eighths to review. So that's been my recipe at the dispensary this year. But I'm not
hell
as
yeah.
up on the brands this year as I normally am because I hadn't, got into as many eighths as I normally do. I've been trying to scale back on the dispensary spending.
Yeah. If my audience wanted to support you besides subscribing to you on YouTube and following you on social media, um, what would be the best way to do that?
Patreon,
Sweet.
Patreon, Patreon. I have three tiers on there, 5, a 10, and a $50 tier. If there's some vagabond out there that really likes my channel, I'm waiting for that to happen. Shout out to the 2A Van Man, who's an absolute legend. I don't know if that dude's like this closet rich dude or like owns like a smoke shop or what, but he sent me this bong that I use all the time. He
Nice.
sent me Puffco.
Whoa.
Yeah,
That ain't cheap. That's awesome.
I was totally shocked when you sent me a Puffco and it like came with all the fucking accessories and like
That's
the
cool, dude.
special glass. Yeah, this is like the special glass I had on there. Apologies, it's a little dirty. Like I said, I haven't dabbed in a long time. This water in here is disgusting, but that needs to be changed. So yeah, shout out to a Van Man, shout out to Baker Man, shout out to Brian D, Markeisha, and Carrie, all of my Patreon supporters. I know you off the top of my head. That's how much you mean to me.
He loves
You mean a
you.
lot to me. But that does it's shocking that people like the people will support me on there. You
Yeah.
really just there's not a lot of content on there, which unfortunately, as I'm advertising it, like it doesn't actually have anything on there. But you do get a shout out in all my videos. That's the main appeal. And then you also do get to tell me to review a specific weed
Oh,
and I will
nice.
actually review it. I get a lot of comments like, "Hey, review this weed," and I'm like, "Well, I'll try to, you know." But if
Sure.
you're one of my patrons, I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna make it happen. Unless, of course, it's like some cookie strain that's never available in the
Sure.
Southern Illinois area. But I'll try to make it happen.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You know what's interesting that I heard about just because it sounds like we're both Southern Illinoisans. The reason that we have sometimes lower choice options is because the deliveries all have to happen in one day. So some companies have described like so especially companies that are from like so the reason you don't see a lot of those like Revolution and stuff, it's like
Uh,
they got to come all the way down here, you know what I mean? And by the time they come down here, they've served all the other populations, you know. And so like we're just last pickings, like anything
right.
that they didn't want, right? And then not only that though, there's like the other side of that. So there are some operators from Southern Illinois that like they they have to like really plan out their day if they're going to get their stuff in dispensaries in Chicago because they got to make it back to the place in Southern Illinois by the end of the day. Like they can't be out past business time or something.
Who is down here? Isn't I because
It's like
ISO is gone
that's what
now.
I was gonna say. It's like ISO, but I don't know who it is because it's like they're doing a partnership with New Era now. But they were the ones that came on my podcast and described. They're like, ah, Cole, you know, it's easy for us to get stuff to these dispensaries down here, but if we have to be very strategic about going to Chicago because like, you know, we're gonna make a few stops over here. She's like, usually though, if we're, I feel like she was describing like, usually if we're going to Chicago, it's like a specific day and we're making it a straight trip to Chicago because they don't because it takes so long. I never thought about it because Illinois truly is a big state. So it takes so long. And I didn't even think about the fact that that could be a logistical like thing operators have to deal with. But
Yeah,
I'm not saying that for with certainty that what we experience, which is less, it seems less pickings than what you see in Chicago,
yeah,
is that I'm hypothesizing that it might be based on what I heard from the New Era thing. You know what I mean? Like I'm
yeah.
wondering if
Probably more
that's
just population demand type of thing. But I don't know.
probably
My
you're right.
area down here in St. Louis, there's a lot of demand. Well, I guess
Yeah.
there was way more prior to Missouri doing it.
True. Yeah, because people would just come across the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that affected the Soje dispensary a lot. I think that's why they had to do those $40 days off quads because that's like their thing they have on their billboard now. It's like,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Interesting. So trying to compete with like the people across on the other side of the fence.
yeah, because if you go over the river and your way back over to Illinois, Ascend has a billboard and Beyond Hello has a billboard. They're like right across from each other.
It's an
But
interesting dynamic.
in general, I find Beyond Hello is a little bit cheaper around here, in general, and then Ascend is okay. They have a little bit more selection sometimes, but they're super picky on like their deals and stuff. I went there just the other day. I have over almost 2,000 points there to use because you can never fucking use the points. Because if you're a medical card person, you get 10% off base. And then they're like, you can't stack your discounts. I'm like,
Mm,
what? I didn't get a discount. It's always on there.
right.
And then the one dude finally told me because I would get it sometimes, I could never figure it out. And then this last time, the guy was like, if you get ozone product, then we'll double stack the discounts. So I
Oh,
have to go there and buy a bunch of ozone shit and use all my points. So that'll
interesting.
be a future video on the channel. Bunch of
Yeah.
ozone stuff.
Well, I will say, one thing that I've always respected about you, and I've tried to do it even myself. Like I just said, I've had Cresco on the show, but I still haven't hesitated to say when warranted, fuck Cresco, right? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm not just gonna throw it around, but I appreciate you that you like call people out, and that you're an honest reviewer. I remember one time you had this experience, and I honestly almost reached out to you because you seemed really upset about it. You went to the dispensary and they fucked you over.
Oh,
Long story
that
short.
pissed me off. Yeah, that was at Beyond Hello. But I'm
Yeah,
still shoppy there to this day. So
yeah.
but yeah, that was ridiculous.
But
That
didn't
was the
they reach
dumbest
out and
thing.
at least try to remedy? No?
No, they fixed it. That was
Oh,
the
okay.
dumbest thing I've ever experienced. I'd live an hour from there, so it was
Right.
just a total pain in the ass. But I drove
Yeah.
all the way there, and it was like they had I don't know remember what the deal was. It was like 25% off online orders. That's what it was. It's 25% off online orders. So I get there, they bring out my order, and they ring me up for it, and it rings up full price, and I'm like, it's supposed to be 25% off. And they were like, "Oh, it wasn't. It's you got here too soon. You got here before your order time, so it's not an online order." It's like you can sit in the lobby for half an hour and wait till your order time. And I'm like, it's right here. We already did it. The order's ready. Like I got a text that the order was ready and I could pick it up as well. And then they're like, oh, I don't know, man. That's just what they told me. So then the manager lady came out. And I'm like, surely this is gonna be solved. And I'm like, hey, like here's the deal, 25. And then she told me the same thing, and she's like, I can't override it or whatever, some bullshit. I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I just walked out of there. Yeah, and then I recorded the angry truck guy rant video. Oh, you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I loved it though because it shows that you're not just gonna let people treat you like that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
And other people, they might be upset and they might be like, oh, blah blah blah, but because they're the only show in town, they don't really have any repercussions. Like they
yeah,
chose the wrong one.
funnily enough, about a week later, I get a call from my wife's cousin. He was the general manager of that place. And he calls me up and didn't even realize that he knew who I was. And I was like, you know who I am, dude. And he was like, he went on like this big long apology. It was like, they should have never done that to you, yada, yada, yada. I just let him talk. And then I was like, hey, you know who I am, dude, right? He's like, oh, shit, I didn't even see your name.
That's
Like, it's
hilarious.
the funniest shit ever. But they did give me, I believe, 50% off my next order. So that was appreciated, but it was still a stupid experience. But you'll experience that in retail from time to time with people that just don't realize what the rules are supposed to be. But that was just such a dumb thing. But they got really strict on that at Beyond Hello for a little while, where they're like, you have to get here whenever your order time says, because I guess people were getting there like 6 hours before their order time and it wasn't ready. But like I live an hour away, so I put in my order and then I drive to the dispensary and I assume it's going to be ready in an hour. And usually I can set it for an hour from there. But that time, like usually if you go early in the morning, the early morning slots are never available. But if you go there early in the morning, there's nobody ever there anyway. So they have your order ready. And they did have an order ready. And it should have just been a normal transaction instead of being a big fucking long thing that I had to make 2 videos about. But whatever, I guess I got some content out of it. And half the people see that video and only that video, and I regret that, but whatever.
Hey, got some content out of it. Well, um, I forgot to ask you. I feel like I forgot to ask you, or you told me and I forgot already. What are you smoking on tonight?
White Wedding, Crops a White Wedding. I got a 7 grammer of this for $32 the other day, so that was pretty good. This stuff is, I describe it as social weed, so perfect for this podcast. When you're hanging out with other people, I find that it gets you nice and like laughy and talkative, ready to go. So, like I said, perfect for this podcast. But I feel like on its own, it's like super, super mild. So it might be a little underwhelming for some people, but quick preview there.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I was holding myself back and now I can do it now. You decided it was a nice day for a white wedding, huh?
Exactly. Gonna go out on the Billy Idol.
Yeah, yeah. Hell yeah. Well, I just want to say again, folks, we've got the links in the podcast description to Cannabis Critique on various social media platforms. Support your local creators. Hit them up on Patreon. But definitely, also follow on social media and subscribe on YouTube for the content. And I guess, on our way out, dude, any bases we didn't cover today or anything specifically you'd like to talk about? I mean, one of the things I did write down that I thought was hilarious that I didn't even think about the fact you deal with is like the nuance of your scoring system and how people will sometimes like it's hilarious that people will like you put this as a 7 but then you put this as a 9, what's the deal?
Oh yeah,
I
it
never
is
even thought
super
about that.
serious. Super serious in the comments sometimes that
You
I'm
almost got to respect the fact that they do know that those numbers though too. They're obviously
yeah.
big enough into your scoring so they're like, well, they they like took note. They're like, hold on a
Or
second.
they'll be like, You said the high wasn't that good, and then you scored it at 8.5. How could that be, or something like that? It's like, I don't know. Sometimes I look at stuff from a different perspective. Like a high is really subjective, and for me, I have a higher tolerance than most. We'll just say that much. So it's harder to gauge some weeds. Sometimes, like, I'll say a weed is weak, but to the novice user, it's not going to feel that way. So that's
Yeah.
why the high sometimes will be a little bit higher than rating than you might think.
Yeah.
I well, I guess I could leave on a cliffhanger about what my actual career is, because that's why I'm able to ramble on for such a long time. But maybe that's what we'll leave it off at. We'll just leave the cliffhangers. What does Cannabis Critique actually do? Some people have kind of figured it out in my comments, like, on occasion, but
I feel like you got to be in like, and you don't got to yay or nay it, but you got to be in like radio or something like that, like some sort of communications.
never know.
You never know.
Never know where you could hear Cannabis Critique.
That's awesome. Before we go, I meant to ask you this. If it's okay, you're good on time, at least for a little bit
Oh,
longer.
I'm totally good on time. I
Cool.
thought you had to be somewhere, or
Oh
like
no,
we were
no,
rambling too long, but I can go
no,
for.
dude. There's no such thing, dude. I've ranted on this podcast for like 3 hours with a prostitute before, so like, you know,
I was surprised with some of that content, because I honestly hadn't checked out a lot of the podcast until very recently, with the name change and stuff. And then I was with my recent foray into Instagram, I find myself on there sometimes on my phone, and you're just always live whenever, I don't know, I'm just fucking sitting around doing nothing. So I'll
yeah,
jump onto your lives sometimes, and that's how I've experienced a bunch of your podcasts. But it's been cool, some cool stuff on there. So I was surprised that you were live at that fucking brothel or whatever one time.
yes,
I stumbled upon that, and I'm like, what in the fuck? I'm like,
yeah.
I
That was
can't even imagine if I would find myself in that situation a year from now as a cannabis creator or something like that. It's like, what in the fuck? How
and that's
how
the
did that
thing.
happen? Yeah, tell me, Cole, how did that happen?
Oh, so yeah, well, that's the thing. Really quickly, it's funny. It like family and stuff. I told them that, and if people want to see the live stream that you're referring to, that is available among the vast array of content I've produced on that subject at colememo.com/sex. So that's how you can access all that content.
It's like a
But
live urban explorer that's not abandoned.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But it's funny because that's the question like that I get is like, why did you go there? And it's like, well, I got invited. So it's like more of a question of how, like, because anybody can go to a brothel, right? They're open 24 hours, I learned.
I
But
guess.
yeah, I got invited by the brothel owner. She's like, come on, walk around. You can
Was she a
interview.
listener of your podcast?
Uh, I
Or
think
you?
her publicist maybe was. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. Because I was interviewing just a lot of different not only people that were like legitimate workers, but managers and owners. And some of them were pretty high profile, like TV personalities in some ways. So yeah, it got pretty real. But yeah, that's basically the long short of how it happened. And why did I didn't even mean to bring that up. We were talking about um, I was saying that, yeah, we can take all the time we want. Um, what I meant to ask you was before we started on that tangent, was I always try to ask creators, do they have any advice for anybody that might be considering starting to produce content? Because it's not easy. As you just said
No.
earlier, you got to deal with bullshit. Like, and we say bullshit jokingly. Sometimes it does feel like bullshit. It's like, come on, guys, when they use like scoring and shit against you. And it's like, guys, I'm making content for you. Don't make this seem like a combative thing. It's like,
Yeah, some people are fucking mean. You have to be ready for that too, but you don't have to deal with that a lot until you get really quite big.
yeah.
People, if you're a small creator, people are super positive, and that's one of the coolest things about it. I
Uh-huh.
had like very early on, I had like this one guy. God, I can't even remember his name now, which is terrible. because he's disappeared from my channel now. I wonder what happened to him, but he used to comment on like every one of my videos as soon as they went up. And then he was like, "You're the best reviewer ever." And this is when I had like 100 subscribers. And I'm like, "This dude's awesome. He thinks I'm the best." Like I'm a fucking nobody.
I love that.
I guess I still am, but
No, that's cool when you get like an organic, like loyal follower. I've
yeah,
got like I've had that experience. It's really cool. And just know people, like if you're either becoming a creator or you're just listening right now, little things like that. Just like as I said at the beginning of the show, I know it may have just it's a preamble, so maybe people just put it on as a background, almost like an ad read. But I meant it when I say that engagement is appreciated, whether that be a comment or like a like or a subscribe. Like it's the only way that we can make it so that our content gets in front of more eyes. So it really
yeah.
helps.
It really makes a difference to like the timing of the comments too. If you watch early on, you comment early, it helps a lot on videos. But back to advice for early creators, really consistency, as everyone says, is the number one thing that the YouTube's going to reward you for. I think a great way to get a start is to like jump into those shorts. If you have, you know, if you can make a funny short, you could pass my channel in literally 30 seconds. I mean, you could get 4 or 5K subscribers from a funny short, or at least like 50K views from a funny short. So, I mean, if you have something like that up your sleeve, you know, whatever type of content, I would just advise people, you know, classic advice of being yourself. Don't try to be somebody else on your videos. Draw inspiration from other people if you'd like, but don't just try to carbon copy somebody else. Um, and that'd be my advice.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And just start, like you say.
Yeah, that's the number one thing as well. Just start. I wanted to start this channel for a while and I didn't because of legalization as the excuse. And then like it took me, you know, 6 months to really get the ball rolling and being like, I'm gonna make an investment in this channel. You know, I'm gonna bite the bullet and spend
Right.
more money on this fucking expensive weed just so I have content for the channel. I was getting up like super early in the morning to go to the dispensary before work so I could get I could get like the new Revolution drop or whatever to have on the channel. So there is like work that goes into the channel that people probably don't realize. And sometimes it's not fun to have to always buy like new weed every single time. Like sometimes people will be like, "What's your favorite weed?" And I have like trouble remembering because like I never get to have like a steady strain all the time. I'm just always having a new strain and a new strain and a new strain and a new strain, always having to push out, you know, more content. And there is a little bit of pressure being a content creator and the I don't know weird shit that comes with that.
Yeah.
Like just feeling like obligated towards your audience, even when you don't really feel like doing a video. Like I didn't want to do videos from like March through like July, and I probably didn't do very many through that time, but I did do a couple. And it does help to like create and stuff like that as an outlet as well. So keep that in mind as well, but don't like feel the need to create for your audience. Create for yourself. That's
Yeah.
that's good advice for me. I, uh, from me, I want to say for me. I find that like just creating stuff is fun. Like I always like I come from a very artistic family. My dad was super artistic and like they like my brothers could always draw and like paint really awesome. There's always controversy about the naked lady painting in the background. That's the painting from my dad that I just got. And like, yeah, I don't know why the hell he painted a naked lady. And then my brother planted it in my head. He's like, did you ever, because he got one too, he got a different naked lady painting and he's like, I just have in my head that like might be mom. And I'm like, what the what? Why would you say
Why would
that?
you ruin my painting?
But
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
I always felt like I wasn't as artistic as them because I couldn't draw and I didn't have that talent. But I find that I do have like other talents in other ways. So, you know, you might be an artist in a way that you don't know. So I just encourage people to create, get out there, create what you want, ignore people when you need to, and embrace the comments when they're good.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That like
Exactly.
that Tame Impala lyric or whatever.
Yeah.
I forget the exact wording, but oh man, I'm gonna have to look it up now.
Yeah, please do. Because I feel like I get what you're saying. The way I always say it is like hurt people hurt people. So it's very obvious when somebody's coming at you if they're trying to hurt you or help you, you know.
Yeah,
Um and if they're trying to help you, great, take that advice, you know, like if it seems like it's coming from, like if they're like, "Hey, your video fucking sucks and you're a loser." Like they're not trying to help you. But if they're like, "Hey, I felt that your video could have been better, you know, if
yeah.
X or Y or Z, you know."
I found it. So if they call you, embrace them. If they hold you, erase them. So
There
basically,
you
if they're
go.
holding you back, erase that shit. And if they're helping you, then embrace it. That's
That's
good advice
perfect.
for a lot of things in life.
Hell yeah,
Deep
dude.
lyrics with
That's
Alex and
awesome.
Cole.
That's awesome. Hell yeah. Yeah. So, well, thank you for addressing that. I always try to ask people, and that's really good advice. I don't feel like I could have said it better. You touched a lot of different bases in that. So, yeah, if you're thinking about getting into it, I think that's some very solid advice, folks. Um, Well, dude, I have had a blast. I'm super duper high, which is always the goal, and to have a blast, but to get to this level of highness. Um, we should do this again sometime. I always like just chatting weed and with random people. So
Yeah, it's been a
if you
lot
ever
of
want
fun, and
to.
I was surprised to be a guest on this podcast. I feel like a very very low on the totem pole of guests on this podcast, so I'm eager to see how it performs. I'm gonna be like Donald Trump looking at the ratings. It's my
Looking at the
ratings.
ratings.
How we
Love it.
doing? How we doing, Cole?
I
This one
love
going
it.
off?
Fuck yeah. Well,
Worst rated show I've had in months.
that's funny.
Maybe the next one.
That's funny. Can people oh, that's a good question. Can people buy your shirts? Or
Oh,
your
I
because you
have.
get your hats and your shirts, I noticed.
Yeah, I don't have any more hats. The hats are sold out. I need to make more shirts. I think I have two shirts available.
Yeah, well then you can't part with the background shirt.
Right?
So
I think I might have three. I don't know. Yeah, I do have another one there. They've just kind of been flying around because I stopped advertising them because people were acting like I was gouging them. These t-shirts I bought, I just went too high of quality because these are really nice t-shirts. Like they're
that's
soft.
important to me. I can see the tag. It's the what's the brand
Velvet
there?
canvas,
Yeah, dude, that's
good
the
shit.
best fucking shirt, dude.
It's the
That's
best
the
shirt.
best
These
shirt.
shirts are awesome. My one friend wears his like literally all the time. He doesn't even smoke. He wears his all the time.
Hell
He's like
yeah.
the number one advertiser of the show just because he likes wearing this shirt. But they're super nice shirts. They were $27 for me to get printed. So then I got to pay, $8 more to send
Right,
it to
for
you.
shipping and yeah.
So I tried to sell them for I think 40, and people were like, fucking outrageous, $40 for a t-shirt. So
Yeah.
then I like trying to sell for 35, and people are saying the same thing. So then I'm like, I don't even advertise them anymore because it's like it's not even. I don't want to go to
I
the
had the
post
same
office and
experience. It sucks,
box
yeah.
it up, send it to you, and make $3.
Yeah.
Not that I'm trying to be a millionaire or anything, but like I want to make some money on these t-shirts. That was the point in making the t-shirts. But then people are like, well, they do advertise. So I'm like, I don't know, I guess.
Hell
I
yeah.
do like guerrilla marketing with my stickers. I find that got the best response. So I need to get back out there with them. I used to just plaster
Slap them
them
up, yeah.
all over the place. I used to put them up in drive-throughs, and I used to get a lot of traction from that. I was having a
That's actually
war with
pretty
a
it's pretty
war with one
genius.
of the local Taco Bells. I just slap it up there, and then I come back like 2 days later and be like power blasted off.
That's
Slap
amazing.
another one up there. Well, one time it was at that Taco Bell for like six months straight or so. And I got at least 3 or 4 comments and be like, hey, I saw this in the Taco Bell drive thru. I wasn't expecting this to actually be a good video.
That's awesome, dude. That is fucking amazing. That we're
Yeah, get on out
organic
there,
follow like
market
that.
however you can, people. You don't even need a budget. Like Kevin Smith made a movie with like $5. Like just do shit. Make it happen. I printed those stickers and I went out and abused people with them. I shouldn't say that, but I
Oh,
put them
that's
up
funny.
all over the place. I remember I was drunk at a bar one time. It was a Halloween party. I was out at some bar and I walked out to the back porch and I was just, I'm drunk. So in my mind, I'm going at a normal speed, but I'm probably going fucking slow as shit. And I grabbed it out of my pocket, and I grabbed it, and then I heard this guy go, no! And I was just like, wow. And he's like, God damn it. But I came back months later and it was still there, so he didn't take it down. But I'm on the popcorn machine at some bar.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I think I like what you said just a moment ago. I think that's what we'll cap this podcast with. Do shit and get it done. I think
All
that's what
right.
he said. Hell yeah. Well,
Salute.
yes, folks, cheers. I hope you found as much value in this conversation as I did. Looking forward to the next conversation and review with and from Cannabis Critique. Cheers, man. All right. Well, dude, again, this was a blast. So thank you for sitting down with me.
Oh, it's a
And
great time. Can't
yeah,
wait to come on again.
absolutely. Absolutely. If you've got something to promote, you just hit me up. If not, you'll hear from me. So
All right.
sound
Sounds
good?
good.
Sound good? Sweet, man. All right. Take care, dude.
You too.